Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode number 18, I believe, of Downright Annoyed with Movies. I am Jackson from Bored and Annoyed, and today we are discussing Patton with our friends here. As always, joined by Michael from the Downright Nerdy podcast, Ryan with Fake Nerd, and Ken. But I will let them introduce themselves, starting with the partner in crime here, Michael.
What's going on, guys? Hey, I'm Mike from the Downright Nerdy podcast. Finally back after a week hiatus, and I'm happy to be here. And yeah, we're here to talk about Patton. I'm excited about it. And yeah, you guys can find me on the downrightnerdy.com, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever. I'm everywhere. Podcasting apps. Look for that too.
There you go. And of course, we have Ken.
Hey guys, it's Ken from Pinky's Out Podcast. You can find us on all the podcasting platforms. We're on a bit of a break because of what's going on, but hopefully things are loosening up. So we're trying to figure out a day we can get together and do another episode. Looking forward to talking about this movie. Great movie.
Wear your mask. You'll be fine.
Right.
Ryan?
Hey guys, Ryan from the Fake Nerd podcast. We're a weekly pop culture podcast. We go live every Sundays because of the quarantine. We're not normally live, but the last 2 months, man, it's been a long ass time, you guys. The last 2 months we've been live. We talk about everything from comics and movies. The last week and the next couple weeks, we're talking about all the DC animated movies. So if you're interested in that, check us out. Pow.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And yeah, again, I'm Jackson, Bored and Annoyed. Go to boredandanoid.com. Check us out right here on YouTube. We got a bunch of video stuff in the last couple months. So yeah, we're here to talk about Patton. Patton is the 1970 historical epic classic starring George C. Scott. And I guess kind of starting with whoever wants to go first. What are your thoughts on Patton? Like it, overrated, bad movie, boring, really good? What do you guys think?
Slow movie.
Okay. Ken?
Not bad. I just thought it was a little slow. They could have chopped a lot more out, and I think it would have been more poignant. But I can't tell you where they could chop it, though, because I felt like the scenes... the camera work and stuff was great. Like the scope, how they presented the scope of the battlefield. That was just phenomenal, especially in the opening scene there where he's driving in to take command of the, the 2nd Tank Battalion?
Yeah, in North Africa.
North Africa, yeah. That scene, when they're flying in, and that was fantastic. Overall, I found myself kind of losing interest here and there, and then so I started going down the rabbit hole of looking up Patton, on the internet as I'm listening to the movie.
I did the same.
Yeah, so very interesting, and I think they even brought this up in the movie. What a throwback of a guy he was. How he was kind of a man out of time, and it was very interesting that someone that was such a devout Christian believed in reincarnation.
Yeah, what a interesting guy for sure.
Yeah, I just when you thought you had him figured out, they threw a little bit of a curveball, but that was him. And I was reading it, and like, no, they presented him accurately.
Definitely.
Yeah, I obviously think that George C. Scott in this carries the movie because he is just one of those actors who's just awesome. Every time I've ever seen him, I would say this is probably his crowning achievement. And he's been in quite a few good things. But Ryan, your thoughts? I saw you kind of nodding your head as Ken was talking. So
yeah, I agree with 100% with everything Ken said. I do think it is a little long. I love a good 3-hour long movie, but just to make sure that I'm invested all the way through. I agree where I don't know what you can cut because all the stuff was good for his character or good for the movie. It just felt there was a lot of it. And especially with an older movie, sometimes you can feel the length. And I did feel the length, but honestly, that didn't detract from me enjoying the movie because they just wanted to tell this long-ass story of this crazy war guy who lived every war that ever lived because he's insane. He's like,
Yeah.
he's really fascinating and fun to watch. Some of the minutia they did kind of boring after a while, but anytime he was on the screen, I really, really liked it. And all the German stuff, I forgot how much of the German aspect you saw of the war in this movie, and I really enjoyed seeing that aspect of it too.
yeah, the way they kind of had him held almost in a higher esteem than the Americans did, that were kind of pulling him out of stuff throughout the movie based on certain actions that he took, which depending on your opinion may or may not have been correct. But Michael, what'd you think?
Yeah, I see where you guys are talking. Like it could have been like it was a bit long, but man, I was 100. The only thing that I thought that they probably could have cut out was the intermission. That was probably the longest wait of my life. I was just waiting for them. Just all right, come on. I hear the music. I almost had to check my remote to make sure that, like, fast forwarding it, just to make sure that I wasn't missing, like, my TV didn't go out or anything. But I thought that everything was perfect. I love this movie so much, and the longer scenes, and especially like the battle scenes, it's different than a like a Saving Private Ryan or a Band of Brothers, in the sense where, like, those type of shows, you're seeing the horrors of the war from the foot soldier's perspective. Right here, you're looking at it's like it's a general looking at a chessboard, essentially, right? And you see that overview of the battlefield, and you're seeing all the different pieces move. And that's why, I mean, those long shots, yeah, it sometimes could be like, oh man, this is kind of long. But the way I took it is like, hey, this is a guy playing chess, and what we're looking at is his chessboard.
Yeah.
None of the war stuff. Like, I love those long war scenes. That's never the problem. I just think with a movie that's 3 hours long, there's a lot of scenes of just a lot of people talking all the time, and that's not necessarily bad. But sometimes there's the characters I just don't care about compared to Patton.
But at the same time, when I thought about that at that point as well, Ryan, and I thought about that maybe right after the intermission, because I thought, yeah, this is a long movie. I was looking at all the conversations that he was having with people. He was playing chess with them too, right? And it was very interesting seeing him change his tactics from in the beginning of the movie, where he was attack on the battlefield, and he's also trying to attack in political and his, and just the dialogue parts of his life, and him trying to kind of, like, later on in the movie, when he doesn't have anyone to command, he's like, all right, now I got to play the game and start being nice to people.
He's got a bag, basically,
thing where he has to be nice to people to get what he wants.
I love this movie. I think it's excellent. I wasn't bored at all watching it. I was pretty gripped. I thought all the scenes were pretty gripping. I do think there are a couple things in particular that, like, have to be discussed with this movie. First of all, the opening scene with his speech in front of the American flag, just something about the way it's framed perfectly. It's just so iconic. You learn so much about the character right there that you're just immediately invested in the character. And I love movies like this where your protagonist is morally gray. He's not, he's not a great guy. You don't hate him because you kind of understand, this is a guy, he had to be this way in order to accomplish what he accomplished, right? It's almost like this is one of those movies where it's like you watch Patton and you're like, we probably need guys like this in positions like this. It's kind of important. So that stuff I all liked. Again, he just rules. He just rules the screen. And it's so funny watching this in our era now, where it's like a lot of this stuff has kind of come up more, I'd say, in the last 10 years or so, kind of the, whether you agree with it or not, kind of the PC culture, participation trophy type mindset.
Yep.
And watching this guy, it's like, I wonder if the way people saw him, because there's a big point in the movie where he spoilers, but essentially the movie's about this general who's he's a hard ass, and he is very full of himself, a huge ego. He wants to be the first one to take out everything. He wants the history books to revere him or whatever. And you get this moment, and it's so interesting because he goes into like a medical tent, and he's going around to all the different soldiers, and you're like, wow, you're really seeing the soft side of Patton here. He really cares about his troops or whatever. And then he gets to a guy who has shell shock, or now it would be PTSD. Back then, They didn't call it that, right?
Battle fatigue.
Battle fatigue. Yep, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he comes up to him and this guy's just crying, and meanwhile there's all these other soldiers who have lost limbs or their eyes were blown out or whatever, and he essentially smacks this guy around and tells him like, look, you're going back out there, all these other brothers of yours are, you know, hurting and you're just full of shit, whatever, you're going back out there, we're putting you on the firing squad. He smacks him around, and then he gets in big trouble for that. Which I found interesting, even in the 40s, that this would have been something that, you know, got him, you know, basically removed from his post. But then his aide comes in with a poll, and basically he says, you know, we polled on this, and like I think it was like 81% or
89%.
something, yeah, 89% are pro you, right? And I was just thinking to myself, like, you know, today I don't think it would be 89%. So
No.
I found that kind of interesting, the idea that someone like this maybe would have been revered back then and now would be cast out as some sort of, you know, a monster. So,
Yeah.
and I really love the idea that he was like really brilliant, like in order to, you know, remember all these different battles that he was at before he was reincarnated into the next battle. I mean, he had a extreme knowledge of, you know, war for thousands of years. He knew tactics, he knew everything, and essentially he was a historian guy who was a badass general. So I found the whole thing from the beginning when he's first getting there to the end when the war is over, and you know he's being kind of you know, he's basically saying America are being pussies for not finishing this thing, whatever. And the Germans kind of like the one guy with the picture of him saying like, this guy's dead too, because he's not going to know what the hell to do now. You know, this is all he has. So I love this movie. I don't think it's like Lawrence of Arabia good. But it's in that same,
love that movie.
Oh, it's great. But it reminds me of it because again,
It reminds you of it.
yeah, because they definitely are both about extremely flawed main characters who are intriguing and fucking crazy. Like that's, you know what I mean? So they remind me of each other. Yeah. So I would say this is top 5 that we've watched so far. I mean, I don't think maybe it's not the best one, but yeah. So anything.
It's just nice to see you so excited about it.
Yeah, I love this movie. I love it, man.
Well, why were you so quiet with Mac and me and and Dune?
Yeah, well, you know,
Dune was epic. Paul was flawed. Are you kidding me?
But yeah, yeah, if only we got in Patton, if only we got the narration scenes, the inner thoughts of Patton.
Right.
I think we got it once.
Whisper thoughts.
I think we got it once. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what else? Sorry, I just hijacked the show there for a minute.
No,
but,
I love when someone has that much passion for a movie.
Yeah,
like,
right.
All of us have done it for different movies that we've done. Yeah, Patton himself is such an interesting figure because he is a guy who he reads the Bible every night. He finds time for it every night, but he will almost shoot his own soldier because he thinks he's not tough enough.
Right.
It's such a conflict of being a person that it is just so fascinating to watch because like this dude is looking again. I play a lot of like real-time strategy PC games where you deal with armies and stuff, and that's a great point that you brought up, Michael. You don't often see war movies that deal with the soldiers as like an army. It's always personal, which is a good thing because it's about personalizing war. But with Patton, it's about look at his pawns and look how he's moving his pawns and how he is the chess master. And that is such an interesting aspect of the movie that I always found so fun to watch. And the quote that he has where he's like, Rommel, you son of a bitch, a rich book, because he's he's so enticed with war. He reads all the different aspects of war. So he's studied his enemies. And I'm like, that is such a awesome. What a weird guy.
I'm curious. Has anybody else seen a movie that's quite like this, where you look at the battlefield as we see it here, like as in a chessboard type of situation?
The end of Ender's Game. I mean, like,
I guess
honestly,
that's a fair point.
Probably the closest.
I mean,
I mean,
aliens and stuff.
I mean, let me ask you, how about a good movie that's similar to this?
Shit, take that, Harrison Ford.
Yeah, believe it or not, the book is worse.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
The book is way worse.
I don't know if I agree with that, but no,
I did not like the
you
book.
know, That is interesting because it is an interesting movie in that way that you don't get much of the actual soldiers. I mean, you've got Patton and his aide, and then Bradley, who's like the other 3-star general. But in general, you see the post-war stuff. Like there's a gentleman who dies in like the first battle that Patton's involved in the movie. And it's interesting that, you know, you're just kind of told that all these soldiers revere Patton and kind of will do whatever he says. You don't really like get in the trenches with them, so to speak, and see them talk about him. And, you know, he mentions in the movie that he doesn't think that his soldiers love him, but he's trained them to be good soldiers, you know? So,
well, he says he doesn't want his soldiers to love him. He wants them
right.
to fight for him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's interesting. Go ahead, Ken.
That. No, you're fine. That opening soliloquy that he did, he had that line, you know, when you stick your hand in the puddle of goo that used to be your best friend's face.
Yeah.
I always thought that was Full Metal Jacket for some reason.
the first 20 minutes are very Full Metal Jacket before Full Metal Jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like
him disciplining the soldiers and then like getting like
I'm like, man, I've got this all screwed up in my head.
It's such a good intro to the character that you'll be following from that opening scene where he's doing his speech to when he shows up and everyone's undisciplined. They have their helmets off. They're dirty looking. They expected him to show up at 9, and it's not like he goes in there and like screams in everybody's face. He just kind of goes in and looks around and is like, yeah, this is going to change.
Yeah,
you know,
a bunch of disappointing mother blunkers.
Right, yeah. And he does say something too in that speech that I love when he talks about, you know, no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. And I thought that was interesting because it's not what you know, normally hear. Usually it's about, he died for his country, and that's
every soldier is important and stuff.
Right.
And like he's basically like, the way he's phrasing it, he wants them to turn into like almost like monsters. He's like, dying's not good enough. You have to be better than dying. You have to not die. You have to kill everyone else.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, buddy, like you're not wrong, but
I mean, unfortunately, that is the goal, right? I mean, that's the goal of war. So
don't sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah, again, I think you need some crazy bastard like Patton.
There's
How convenient was it that all of the general's vehicles were marked with the number of star general that was in the car? Did you notice that? And every time he got demoted, the stars disappeared on his Jeep.
Yeah,
that's good.
I love that too, because like they don't sugarcoat the fact.
No.
Like they don't treat Patton as if he was just this hero. He's not like a hero worship character. It's like, oh, I don't even have the promotion yet, but I think I'm getting it. So give me the new stars for my jacket, my hat. He has them put on the car. Like immediately, it's very important to him. He's got a huge ego, which is interesting, but kind of like Michael.
From his record, he should have been a 5-star general, but because he couldn't shut his mouth, he lost most of his rank.
I love that so much. Where like he is so dedicated to the military, where he'll get demoted and then get a promotion and then get demoted, and he's like, I'm still in it. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
He almost reminds me a little bit about remember Starship Troopers, where the gunnery sergeant ends up being busted into private so that he ends up
Kurgan,
so that he gets to fight. Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
He's like, he doesn't care. He just wants to get in the fight. You know?
Yeah.
You ain't want to live forever.
Oh, I love that book and that movie. I love them.
Well, it's interesting
it's a
too.
book.
Like
Robert Heinlein.
Yes, thank you.
I do think that movie's great, by the way. Somebody should keep that in mind to pick that some week. But
I've got 3 in the back of my head.
Yeah, so I do really love to I love the General Bradley character, who is kind of his friend, but is kind of the angel sitting on his shoulder, trying to be like, George,
it's his conscience. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, George, settle the hell down. And George will get all angry for a second, then he's like, oh yeah, you've done more for me than anyone, so you know. And George C. Scott, like when he gets that grovelly voice going and he really gets into it, he just commands a screen, you know what I mean? He's
and then
amazing.
He starts talking, what was it, he speaks Italian, or is it French?
French.
So
Yep.
then he starts talking French and picking wine and stuff, so he goes from this ass-kicking, like slap a guy because he's a coward, to like being this Renaissance man of putting on this fancy dinner and proposing his war ideas. Just with a flip of a
Well,
switch.
I think that was part of that chess game where he's like,
Mhm.
all right, I have to
Right.
appeal to these guys this way in order to get what I want in battle.
But to be that kind, to have
Because
the
if you see-
ability to do that, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
To flip
Because
that switch.
because if you see, remember later on when he goes into that pink room with the mirrored ceiling, and he's like, who the hell picked this thing, you know? And he's like, oh, they're really rubbing it in, you know, on me because I did something wrong, and like that's not who he is. He doesn't care about that, but like he's just like he does that to get what he wants, and I don't know. I just started talking.
I do think he appreciates. I do think he appreciates some of the finer things in life. He might be like a hard ass military guy, but when he goes to Morocco, he appreciates the way they look and the way that they're attired. He's like, "I love you guys. You guys look like a mix of the Bible and Hollywood."
Well,
And it's
yes,
like my two favorite things. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
and he
true.
even makes a comment. I wish my soldiers looked like that when they were
Well,
marching or whatever.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because his soldiers at the time were a complete mess.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he felt that. Yeah, I it's interesting too. I had either forgotten or didn't know until I watched this that Francis Ford Coppola wrote this.
Yeah.
And that does not surprise me because it's got that Godfather-esque kind of important scenes in rooms, characters talking, moving the story along through interesting dialogue, I would say. The character of Patton is written very deeply, like a lot of the characters in, Godfather's Part 1 and 2, so that didn't surprise me. How you speak about the him with the wine drinking and the French stuff. How awesome is the scene at the end when they win the battle, they win the war, and the Russians and them are it's
good.
great. Yes.
Oh,
and that's
good.
historically accurate too.
That
from
he
what
did
I was
that?
Looking at yes.
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Oh,
That's why he didn't get his 5th star is because of those comments and stuff.
Yeah, he basically the Russian general, kind of his counterpart on the Russian side, and obviously, with the history of how the Russians entered the war, that whole thing, he wasn't a big fan of the Russians, but basically he wants him to have a drink with him, and Patton's like, I'll never have a drink with this son of a bitch or whatever, and the guy kind of
word for
word.
sends a barb right back at him, and Patton just kind of laughs and he respects that. I'll drink to that. One son of a bitch to another. I thought that was just awesome. But
Yeah.
Did you notice who did the music?
I did not.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you
This
go.
movie won like a bunch of Academy Awards and stuff. I didn't know about it. It did pretty well.
And the
Now
picture was really
I know
clean,
that
too.
George.
C. Scott.
Yeah, George C. Scott. He didn't get. Did he get the Academy Award for this, or he turned it down, or something? Right.
I'll go back to it, but I know it won.
I
It
remember
won Best
seeing
Picture,
something
for sure.
where he's. I read it a while back. Him saying he didn't think he deserved it, or something like that, or maybe he turned it down,
Ooh,
or
What
something
a cool
like
guy.
that.
I'll do some research. You hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, he was George S. Patton is considered in AFI's 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains. He's number 29 on the heroes list, which is interesting.
Where's he
He's
on the
higher
board?
than him.
No, no, I mean there could be a few.
Luke
He's not-
Skywalker.
I feel like he could be
Ray
number
Skywalker.
29. He could be number 29 on the heroes list, and depending on your perspective, maybe he's number 80 on the villains
Yeah,
list.
I was
You know
gonna
what I
say,
mean?
It rides a line.
Right.
Well, I mean,
That's what's interesting.
It's like, yeah, we were talking about like how conflicted he is as a person as a personality, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
So he did. You're right, Michael. He did win the 43rd Academy Award for Best Picture, but for Best Actor. But he turned it down, and he was the first actor to do so. That's fascinating.
yeah.
But it won 6 Academy Awards overall. So people like the movie.
So Patton did well. Yes.
Patton did well.
I mean, it is like, it's one of those, especially that first scene, again, it's one of those things that like everybody has seen that at some point in their life somewhere. It's been referenced. It's one of those, like the general in front of the giant American flag. It comes from Patton.
It's been made fun of. Yeah.
Yes, right. It's just super iconic. And God, I just can't say enough about how awesome George C. Scott is. He does seem like an actor that kind of likes the smell of his own farts a bit, in everything
Nice
that he's
South Park
in.
reference.
I recently watched Exorcist 3 that he was in, and he's just great in that.
That's a good
He's
movie.
great in it. Yes, it's very good.
I don't think I've ever seen any of the Exorcist movie.
Oh, geez. Oh,
1 and
God,
3.
man.
1 and 3.
One,
Ken.
yeah,
One and
yeah.
three?
Skip 2. Yeah, skip.
Plus
2.
Zuzu. Yeah.
But yes, I don't have too much to say. I kind of went on my monologue here and hijacked the show for a minute. So anybody else, any more important, negative, positive, neutral things to say about Patton?
The me being negative, that wasn't me being negative. That's just like if I had to say something negative, like it's a long movie and I feel
I don't
it.
think anybody took it negative.
But it's not, but it's not a bad thing. It's just like I felt the length, but it's never was never a detriment to watch. It's like, wow, this is a long ass movie, all right.
Because I figure sometimes when someone says like it's a long movie, that also means like it was hard to get through. This wasn't hard to get through. Yeah, it was hard.
No, it was
I mean,
just
a
long.
movie,
It
but it wasn't hard.
It's just like a small miniseries. Yeah.
It felt half as long as Surf Ninjas last week. And you know what? That's what's great about this show too, by the way, is that last week we watched Surf Ninjas, and this week we watched Patton, and you could not find two more opposite types of films.
Oh my God!
You tried.
We need to do like the 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but between every movie we watch to find the connection. What's the connection between Patton and Surf Ninjas? We gotta know.
Oh,
did Leslie Nielsen ever star alongside of George C. Scott in anything?
He was probably an extra.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
We could do this.
But yeah, anything from Michael or Ken? Any kind of parting words about Patton? I know the show's a little shorter when we only have 4 people. So
yeah,
There's one line.
Should watch it.
Yeah, there's one line. I think his name's Bradley. He's talking to Patton. He's like, Patton, we're just 2 different people. Like I was like the military like made me this way, but like you were like born for it. Like you were, or like you were.
He
made
loves it.
No, you
love it. Yeah. And he just like smiles.
I trained my entire life to get here. You actually love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, and there's people that do, and they exist for a reason. I mean, there's a guy like Patton. Who knows where we would have been at. I mean, the whole ending like deal when they're kind of doing oh God, what do you call it? They're kind of cutting back and forth between stuff. They're showing on the map how long of a journey they're making to kind of swing around and make that attack.
The pincer move on Sicily.
Yeah, and I mean, what does he say? That they killed 1 million plus Axis soldiers over the course of that maneuver. So I mean, man, it is crazy. Like, could other people have done that? People were telling him, no, you can't do it in the snow. He did it anyways. He had some tough ass soldiers. So, I mean, hey, George Patton, I guess he is a hero. But yeah, Ken, any parting words about Patton or?
No. Well, I urge people, if you watch the movie, go read about the man too, because there's some very interesting things that happened to him before the movie takes place and after the movie takes place. For instance, originally, when he was first out of West Point, he was assigned to the Philippines. But on his 11-day break, he went to Washington, D.C. and used his influence to get reassigned to the Mexican border, where he then kind of bullied his way into being the head guy to go after Pancha Villa down into Mexico.
No way.
And that's how he kind of he bullied and pushed his way. He knew if he got sent to the Philippines that his career would never go anywhere. That he'd be just a paper pusher his whole life. It's very interesting. And then to kind of have his life end with a slow speed impact that broke his neck. Yeah. They were surveying damage in Germany, I believe it was, after the war, and they were talking, boy, look at, war is so wasteful. And then next thing you know, they hit a truck, and everybody else in the truck was fine except for him. He broke his neck, and I believe he died 12 days later from congestive heart failure.
Did you know they made a sequel to this movie?
I just saw that when I was looking at stuff online.
It's a made-for-TV movie 16 years later.
Okay. Interesting.
About like it almost feels like that Capone movie that just came out. It's like about the last few weeks of his life, apparently, in between his car accident and the last times of him being in the military. That's kind of interesting. I'm wondering if the quality is going to be there, considering it's a made-for-TV movie.
I can't imagine.
With none of the creative teams behind it. So
an 80s TV movie, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, Michael, you wore the American flag themed shirt today, so you're right in there with Patton. Any parting words?
Today is
Patton?
the anniversary of D-Day. So.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah. So, any last words for Patton, Michael?
Great movie. Highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while, go watch it.
Sweet. Okay.
Now
we have no one in the chat right now, so
do we need to talk smack? Or?
Well, yeah, we should probably talk smack.
Well, then
about our
I
audience.
think we should just all get a second spot on the wheel.
There you go.
Okay, hold on now.
Let's just double it up.
I don't hate it.
8 spots. Everyone gets 2.
All right, so here we go. I am sharing the wheel.
That we're watching Ice Pirates, even regardless of making them watch Ice Pirates.
Every week.
Right, so
we can't go a
let's
week.
see
We
here.
got to do the Ice Pirates. We got to do
Right?
it.
Can I copy?
I'm not going to lie, Jackson. I'm rooting for you, buddy. I'm rooting for you.
I can copy these. See this neat little. Let's see here. We're gonna give everybody 2 spots on the wheel. We're gonna give everybody. You know, it's funny because the only time I've gotten to pick a movie now outside of the first episode is that genre wheel. So I still haven't won the wheel, but I think this is gonna be it. This is gonna be it. Here we go.
I believe in you.
Pinky's out's got 2 spots right next to each other, so we'll see how that works out for him.
Oh no!
Oh,
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Oh no!
Oh!
All right.
Right on the edge.
I'll allow it.
On the edge.
All right, what are we watching this week,
Mulligan.
Michael?
Mulligan. I call him Mulligan.
Mulligan.
I mean, that is close. That is,
Look at that.
That's
Boogie Nights.
Reach out of this real quick. Hold on.
that is real
a
close.
recount.
Well, what I want to know is what Ryan would have picked if he won, because then,
I don't want to say it because I still want to do it.
Yeah, okay. We'll hold off on that then.
Yeah.
Oh, by the
Okay.
way, I'm never going to say Ice Pirates.
So I've picked in the past, I've picked a couple comedies, a couple classics. Let's see. Have I picked an action flick yet?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think-
Ooh.
Ip Man.
Ip Man?
Ip
Yeah,
Man.
you think-
Let's see.
It's not really an
that's kung
action
fu.
movie,
That's like kung fu. I think that's more like an epic almost as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Boy, what a rabbit hole that movie put me down on the internet.
All right.
You got it. You got this.
All right.
Do it for America.
You can do
I'm
it.
actually picking this.
You can do it,
Do it for America.
All right. We're gonna watch
America.
an Arnold Schwarzenegger flick.
I'm already excited.
Commando.
I'm
Get your
already
voices
excited.
ready. This probably has the best one-liners in the world.
Commando.
Commando.
Yeah!
Commando.
It's been a long time.
It's
Yeah.
been a
All
long time.
So next week we will be going from, let's see the roller coaster we're on. So we went Ip Man, Surf Ninjas,
Ninja.
Patton, and now Commando, which I have a feeling takes a little bit of a different look at war than
Yes.
Patton does. Yes. So thank you everyone for
Love
joining me today. We'll start with our goodbyes with good old Michael again.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks again very much, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to stay tuned next week. It'll be on my channel, Downright Nerdy Podcast, and you can find us anywhere podcasting apps and Instagram and all that fun noise. So check us out.
Sweet, thank you, sir. And Ken.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. This is always a blast. You can find us at Pinky's Out Podcast and all the podcasting platforms. Soon, hopefully, we'll have some new content for you pretty soon. So check us out.
Sweet, thank you, Ken. And Ryan.
Hey guys, still Ryan from the Fake Nerd Podcast. This Sunday, we're going to be talking about 3 more of the DC animated movies, Throne of Atlantis, Batman versus Robin, and then another Batman movie because that dude has too many movies. We're going to be going live on Sunday if you want to watch us do that. You can find me personally at DJ Tony Snark if you want to watch me play some video games on Twitch or YouTube. Besides that, thanks, Patton, for winning the war. I respect you, you crazy bastard.
All right. And I'm Jackson, Bored and Annoyed. You can find us at boredandanoid.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you again for tuning in. And I don't know if we're sure what time we'll be at next week, but keep an eye on our social media to find out when we will be talking Commando. Have a good rest of your weekend.
I can't wait.
Oh, that